Welcome to the CompTIA Tech Jobs Report for December 2024. Let's jump right in. As always, I'm going to welcome CompTIA's Chief Research Officer, Tim Herbert. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, can you believe this is the last episode of 2024?
I can't believe it.
I know, we made it. We made it through another year. So let's take a look back over the last 12 months. What should we make of the tech jobs landscape?
It was certainly an eventful year, to say the least. No shortage of twists and turns, ups and downs in the jobs data. And if you recall, there were some months that exceeded all expectations. Not too long ago, we had a month that added over 100,000 tech jobs across the economy. We had plenty of examples of sectors such as tech services, cloud infrastructure, data hosting, that all outperformed expectations. We had a rebound in job postings from some of the dips at the beginning of the year. So employers ramping up hiring activity across a wide range of positions. And then, of course, we also have to acknowledge that there were some low spots. There were months that we just had to shake our head and wonder what was going on. There was the pervasive cloud of recession talk, of wondering what the Fed was going to do to try to rein in inflation. So, of course, there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of confusion. And we also have to be aware and we have to be sensitive to the fact that there was such a vast array of experiences. Some companies prospered, were growing, were adding staff, while others that may look very similar on the surface were struggling and lagging. And the same with workers. Some were progressing in their career and had lots of job opportunities, while others lagged. So we always want to be sensitive and not overgeneralize too much. With that being said, though, if we had to characterize the year, we can say that there was probably more stability than what was apparent. And certainly if you follow the headlines, and we discuss them quite often over the past 12 months, there was a tendency to focus on the negative. And yes, there were many layoff announcements, but that was offset by many companies hiring. If we look at the unemployment rate, and this is one of the key metrics that we track in the CompTIA Tech Jobs Report, you do see for the most part, the trend line has continued and tech unemployment remains at a fairly low level. For the last month, it was at 2.4%. So it is well under the national unemployment rate. And that is a signal that it is still a fairly tight labor market that is still very competitive for certain types of skills, for certain types of job roles, and that employers really have to work to recruit the candidates that they want. And you do see that we did have a few blips where it did increase above 3%. But we also had some quirks in the data. And there were a few times where it increased, then immediately fell back. So overall, probably a better year than what some may have guessed. And we won't have the final tally until early next year. If you recall, there is a 1 month lag. So we won't have the December numbers in until January. And you can look forward to CompTIA's State of the Tech Workforce release. And that is our annual compendium of all data covering the tech workforce. And that will have the update on 2024, as well as our projection for 2025.
Thank you, Tim. That's a helpful recap of 2024. Speaking of 2025, what should job seekers or employers be thinking about as we head into the new year?
One of the ways that we can think about this is an analysis of the job posting data. And that is an indicator of hiring intent. So we can take a look at where is their momentum and where do we expect this momentum to carry over into the new year. So the first opportunities outlook revolves around industry sectors. And this is a topic that we talk about on a regular basis. But it's worth reminding everyone that the majority of tech hiring occurs outside of the tech sector. More specifically, looking back on 2024, roughly 75% of all employer hiring occurred in sectors outside of tech. So tech is the largest single sector for employing tech professionals. But when you run down the list of all of the other sectors in the economy, in the aggregate, they employ more tech workers and there's more hiring activity. So sometimes this is a source of confusion. The expectation is that you're going to work for a big tech name, but that is simply not the case for most workers. And a few of the sectors that I want to call attention to, there are some of the ones that you would expect. Healthcare, finance, those are big sectors in our economy, so they're going to have a lot of hiring activity. But think about a sector such as insurance or utilities. Those are major sectors, and those are often opportunities for career changers. Someone that may have expertise in, say, insurance. They understand the insurance business, they understand insurance customers, the data that is used. And if they're thinking about moving into tech, they may develop their skills through training, through certification, and that is usually one pathway into those types of jobs. And that also works well for employers. And in some cases, these employers, they may be at a slight disadvantage if they're trying to recruit someone from other sectors that are more well-known or other companies that are more well-known. But they can find specialty expertise, and they may find candidates that can add value immediately. So it's really a win-win for both candidates as well as employers. And then the last one I want to mention here, and again, we could go through, there are hundreds of sectors in the US economy, but these are just some of the ones that have momentum, meaning that they have ramped up hiring throughout the past 12 months. And the one I want to mention is the nonprofit sector. There are tens of thousands of associations, of foundations, of religious organizations, of others that may provide some type of service or support to their constituencies. So think the American Red Cross. And some of these are major organizations. They have the same technology needs as really any other company, and they hire a lot of tech workers. So that's also sometimes a sector of our economy that is overlooked. And it's also an important reminder that many of these organizations are small or medium-sized businesses. Roughly 99% of all organizations and companies in our economy fall into that small or mid-size category. And this is also a good reminder for employers that in those situations, if you are a small business, you're attempting to compete with a large financial institution for cybersecurity talent, for example, you have to be creative, and you typically have to cast a wider net with candidates. And this is a good best practice for everyone, but especially small businesses. You may have to relax your traditional requirements around four-year degrees. You may want to emphasize credentials, certifications, job experiences, and you can often find a great candidate that will serve you well. And this is a good segue to the next opportunity outlook. The other perception, or I should say misperception, that we often dispel is that working in tech means working in Silicon Valley, or it means working at one of the other major tech hubs, such as New York City or Washington, D.C. And these are important tech hubs for innovation. They do have a lot of companies based there. But in the aggregate, they represent a relatively small share. The tech workforce is so vast and so pervasive across every state, every metro area, that there are essentially hiring opportunities that span the gamut of metro areas. And the 10 metro areas that we have listed here, they also fall into that category of there is hiring momentum, meaning that the number of employers that have ramped up hiring has increased throughout the year. And just among these 10 metros, the increase is about 40%. The highest, Raleigh, North Carolina, was at 86%. So almost a doubling of the number of job postings by employers. So there's probably a mix of different types of companies that are all recruiting tech talent in the Raleigh area. But you also see representation from many others, Oklahoma City, Nashville, Salt Lake City, Boise. So it's a nice mix of representation across the entire country. And you could, again, take this down a level to even smaller cities that are often hiring. So sometimes if you are a job candidate, you do have to be realistic that you may not necessarily be working in a major city, but there are lots of opportunities. And then as well as for employers, that they may find it challenging to compete with tech talent in a major hub, but there may be untapped talent in a number of mid-market metro areas and willing candidates that could either relocate or work remotely. So those are two opportunity outlooks to be aware of as we head into next year.
Thank you for that. Now let's talk specific tech job roles and skills. What is the opportunities outlook for those?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because we do want to drill down into some of the specific job roles and skills that candidates should be thinking about. Anyone who's working in tech, looking to progress, looking for promotion, and then as well as employers as well. And if you recall, not too long ago, we introduced the latest update to the CompTIA Tech Jobs landscape. And this is a handy graphic that presents the 6 key job families and then all of the underlying job roles that are associated with those job families. And one of the macro trends, and this has been going on for years, but we expect it to become even more critical in the year ahead, is the degree to which interconnected technologies further drive the need for interconnected skills. And what I mean by that is technologies work in concert. It's pretty rare that we have technologies today that are siloed, meaning that they're not interacting with other applications. They're not interacting with, say, cloud infrastructure or the network. There's not an underlying data component. There's not an underlying cybersecurity component. And then, of course, a management and operations component, as well as the tech support need. So any business is thinking about these holistically, that you can't just have progress on one front without also thinking about how all the pieces fit together. And because the market is moving in this direction, it means workers have to be aware of, and they have to be thinking about their skills the same way, that they don't want to have just siloed skills where they have deep expertise in one area, but they lack the breadth of skills in other areas that are complementary. And if we look at one example, a lot of attention on artificial intelligence. On a growth basis, one of the highest performers. Granted, it's starting from a much lower number, but on a percent change, we saw remarkable growth with the number of employers looking to hire either dedicated AI professionals or those with AI skills. But AI does not operate in a vacuum. AI requires enormous amounts of data and compute power. So there's the relationship to cloud infrastructure and data centers. And of course, just having a powerful AI tool that is not user-friendly or does not have a user design sensibility is not going to gain much traction in the market. And then also, of course, the sensitivity of the data, the compliance needs, the governance needs, there's a cybersecurity component. And for example, if you work in cybersecurity, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be an AI expert or you have to be a UX expert, but you have to be conversant. You do have to have a portfolio of skills that make you at least aware and fluent in terminology, when you are having team-oriented projects, that you are interacting with, say, the cloud engineer, the UX designer. And that's the business expectation. This is the way business thinks about it. So if you're a worker or a job candidate, you have to be thinking about your skills the same way. And then the other example, think about a data scientist that may be building an internal data dashboard. So every company wants to be data-driven. They want to rely on real-time data. They want to make sure their employees are making smart decisions. And you can think about a situation where a data scientist, they could build the most remarkable data dashboard. But if it is behind schedule, if it is over budget, it's going to draw some pretty serious criticism from their employer. And that has really been one of the focus areas over the past 12 months, and something we can expect into the next year. Companies continue to focus on productivity and ROI. So a data scientist, they may work closely with, say, a DevOps engineer to make sure that the different integrations of data across finance, across CRM, across sales data, that is all operating efficiently and on schedule. You can see where an IT project management plays an important role in bringing together all the staff that may be involved in this type of project. And then, of course, on the back end, any type of application, it must be not only supported when issues come up, but there also has to be the proactive maintenance, anticipating when operating system or browser updates may require updates to the dashboard or how users are interacting with it. And this is just another situation where, for example, a tech support specialist doesn't have to be a data scientist, but a tech support specialist better be pretty aware of how data is powering different applications. They better be conversant in some of data terminology. They have to be aware of operations. A data scientist has to be aware of project management best practices. They have to know what it means to have a project sprint. So you can see again how building both your depth and breadth of skills makes you a more valuable employee or a more valuable job candidate. And this is something that employers are thinking about, and this is something that employers, the savvy, progressive employers, are investing in this type of training and skills to make sure that they're getting the most out of their workforce. So this is something that we can expect. It's both, I think, a challenge, but it's also a great opportunity for those willing to invest the time and the effort to really have the depth and breadth of skills the market desires.
Well, Tim, thank you for sharing that insight with us. This is a good place to end this episode. I'm
Great.
wishing
Thank you, Andrea. And again, it was great talking jobs with you over the past year.
awesome. Happy holidays, and I look forward to meeting you back here at the top of the year. Viewers, thank you for tuning in, and we will be back in 2025.